I'm sharing my screen. Let me know once you see it.
Yes, sir. It's not visible yet.
Is it visible?
Right now it's visible.
Okay.
So, shall we start, sir?
Give me 1 minute, please.
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to verify whether the system is giving through the audio and video. Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir. Take your time.
Yeah. Anyway, audio is coming through because of my headset, but I wanted to make sure the audio comes through the video as well.
We can
All right.
take it.
Just give me 1 minute. I'm sharing a screen. Let me know when you see it.
Yeah, I can see only the title. Black
I'm
board.
playing the video. Is it audible to you?
No, sir. There isn't any audio. Only the video.
Okay. Let me see. I'll share the entire screen, rather one particular application, and then see what will happen. Okay. I'm sharing the entire screen now. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm playing a video. Let me know whether you can see that video and the audio.
Again, only the video, sir.
No audio?
No audio. If you can try to increase the volume, it's full. Still no audio, sir. Still no audio. I suppose you need to unplug your headphone or
same as the system. When I say same as system, so now I have to see audio settings. It is taking only from my speaker. You understand that?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That is the reason. Use audio. How can I make it both? Microphone device. See, this is coming. Speaker also coming from my mouth. How can I make? If I say make it a system, then you will not hear my voice. But let me test whether this works through the audio from the system. Okay.
Yeah, we can check it out.
Do you hear it?
No, sir. No, sir.
Microphone say my system automatically adjust the micro volume, test the speaker.
I think while playing the video, if you can just unplug your mic or headphone, and the speaker's voice, the laptop systems or speaker's voice will automatically.
Okay, I'm unplugging my headset and see. Let's see what will happen. Okay,
Yeah.
I have now unplugged it. Let me know whether you could hear my voice or not.
Yeah, your voice is audible.
Do you hear the sound?
Voice is low, sir.
I couldn't hear you.
Voice is very low, sir. Voice is very low.
My voice is low, but how is the system?
No, the system's voice is low. I can hear you. I can hear the song as well. I can hear the video audio as well. But the voice is very low.
Voice is very low. Okay.
If we can
Let
increase
me
the-
see. Let's go with this and see what will happen. I have a few audio to play at the time of there are certain situations, but I'll see how can I manage that system. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Let's get started and see what will happen.
Okay, sir.
I'm changing it to microphone and then making it as why? Anyway, it's only you and me in the system now. There are no other participants.
They will join through the YouTube Live and Facebook Live mostly.
Okay. Are you sure there are anyone?
Yeah, you can also check on the YouTube Live as well.
Can you give me that link?
Yeah, sure. So mostly whoever available on this time, they can watch it, and rest of the participant will watch it after their convenience time, because it will be available on our Research Circle YouTube channel and the Facebook Live.
I'm just checking whether are there any viewers live.
Shall we start, sir? Right now, sharing has been started. The link has been sharing in the group, so they will join after 5-10 minutes. So you can, at last, you can see the number of views on your videos, so you can just get it out.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm just trying to check my luck with one more possibility, whether the YouTube link would play some audio and then see.
I guess in Zoom that is not the possibility there.
Is not possibility. I'm sharing the screen and see what will happen. Do you see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
I'm playing audio. Is it audible?
No, sir. No, sir.
Is it audible?
No, sir. No, sir.
Huh?
No, sir. No, sir.
It's not
No,
audible.
sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, then let's forget it, because I'm trying to see whether there could be a possibility when I share the screen, at least you would hear this audio. I'm not sure why this is not happening, but let's see. Let's ignore this and then continue to run our system and see what will happen. Okay,
Yes, sir.
because in the interest of time, we shouldn't be keeping the people wait, and then let it run. And when there is an audio, I'll skip this and I'll convey that via voice.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so you can share your screen.
Yes, I'm sharing the screen.
Okay, so
You
hello
can see
and
my screen?
warm welcome to all. Yes, yes.
Please go
Hello
ahead.
and warm welcome to all. Welcome to Research Circle and welcome for today's exclusive session, which is titled as Industry 4.0 and its need. We do have with us our today's expert, DSK Chakravarthy. He's MCA and BSc. He's a and delivery manager, solution architect, Agile Coach and developer. He's expert in application delivery with over 17 plus years of experience and implemented Agile practices towards delivering large scale products by effective collaboration and coaching multiple Scrum teams. So without wasting much time, let me welcome Mr. DSK Chakravarthy, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. On the very first day of the week, before I start my actual work, it is a pleasure to share my knowledge with the community and collect information. What if am I missing something, or in a direction where I can learn more from the community. The point I wanted to share my knowledge is with the current industry, which is known as knowledge industry. And in a number wise of versions, it's 4.0. In the next 60 minutes, if not 60, probably less than 60, what I wanted to talk about is what is 1.0 to 4.0 and what 4.0 needs, or is there a need for a 4.0, and then followed by, are we going to the next level? Can it be considered as 5.0? If so, how or what are its characteristics? The journey towards that. These are my points I wanted to talk about. So let's get going. My first point is to talk about how, where have we come from? 1.0, when you talk about the industry, you would be talking about, you have come across from machines or building machines for repeated tasks. How do you do the mundane works with the help of machines? I'm sure you all know the first machine, mostly known as loom machine. produced during 17th century or 1784. And that led to concept of connected sense of different devices. And I'm sure you know that led to the concept of engines, what we call it as steam engines or something like another mechanical engines. And that is the point where you would have seen the rail had taken the commutation to our next level. And mostly when anyone talks about 1.0, they only talk about the machines or mostly the steam engine machines, because steam engine is the one thing which brought the entire difference between kinetic energy to a dynamic or energy, static energy to a kinetic energy. And after that, with that concept of motion coming from the machines, a mass productivity have come into picture, and we call it as industrial revolution to produce goods at a large scale. We call it as a mass scale. And during that particular period of time, also concept of electricity, and then electricity can be imbibed into an industry, and how can you bring to a level of automation and automated techniques, and production has become a large scale. And that led to an innovation of cars, and you could see that cars have become a commodity rather than a luxury for these days. I'm at the age of 50, but when I look at 3 decades back, car was a luxury for us. When I'm close to 15, when someone asked me, what would you do when you become old? I told them that I would buy Maruti 800 car and I retired. But Maruti 800 nowadays is not available. But point to bring attention is, those days car was a luxury, but now car is not a luxury, it become a commodity. They have produced such that we have parked cars on the roads, and we don't have a place to park them at our place. They become so common in nowadays. Now, from that particular version, where have they moved? 3.0, how does it move from an what do you call it as machinery to a 3.0? Everybody talks about 3.0 as nothing but the concept of chips. They say that it is all about machines brought into our life with the concept of chips. But these chips, when they imbibed into a machine, all you need is something what we call it as the programming mechanism. So anyone who talks about the programming would basically talk about that particular stuff. The programming on the chips are nothing but the third generation. So once that is done, we have come to a level of where this programming and chips successfully working together led to a next generation, which is nothing but 4.0. But before we get into that particular 4.0, what is the need for such 4.0? First, we have to understand that the need for industry 4.0 is, we all know we started with hardware, and there are a lot of chips, and these chips are programmed using some kind of a software, and they result in the data. And when you talk about this data, as it is growing with reference to the time, we get the data into a multiple dimensions, or what we call it as multiple fashions. We get the data not only a tabular format, but also a flat files format like pictures and others. But we also have data from the point of dimensions. We call it as cube dimensions or multidimensional data. Point here to understand is, do we really know the data? Do we really understand how do we treat that data? Do we really know how to interpret the data? When you interpret the data, what needs to be taken from that particular interpretation? Do we really know what overviews that yield value And how do we understand that value proposition? And do we really know what peaks of this data is used for decision making by the decision makers? Few of these questions have answers and few doesn't really have an answers. The reason is the concept of on demand at the time of the peak of these application data, innovation have come into picture in making sure the availability of the software and hardware through means of a connected sense of cloud. So we understand this data and we have seen how do we take the data and we treat the data for a little extent. That is the reason you see a cloud innovation, and we are getting agile with the change, and we are getting ready for the next generation of the applications, and we are looking into the various ways of connected sense and applications from a different perspective, using robotics and using machines and using mobile technologies, and we all call it as cognitive computing. So this is the need for the fourth generation. When you talk about fourth generation, we have the data coming in enormously, continuously of quantum data. And how do you understand this data is how do we make sure that a cognition imbibed with these data, we make use of that particular cognition knowledge. That's all about the what we call it as fourth generation. Now, point here I wanted to bring to your attention is the fourth generation making humans lazy or slow? Or the machines taking care of what humans usually do, and are the slow are the jobs from the human taken away because they are slowness? I would say yes, and mostly it all depends on the situations. But if we look into the details of why there are lack of jobs for the sake of introducing the machinery, is because of the slowness in performance by the employees. So why do the human become slow? Because it's a mundane activities, and because of doing the things right or doing the right thing. There's a clash between these two things. People don't really understand the main difference. The human power has to be used for doing the right thing rather doing the thing right. Because to do the thing right, if we know the steps, we can always automate that thing with the help of the machinery. So the people, investors or human business people, they don't really understand where to use to do the right thing and to do the thing right. So in that conflict, they use the importance of the human brain, and they always replace, when there is an automation required, they replace the people. So that's the need of the being mechanical rather thinking, making the people to slower themselves. That is because lack of interest in what they are contributing. And a part of that, accidents happen in industries, and security implementation to avoid such kind of an accidents is causing huge amount of revenue, and that is eating up the profit in the business. So not only the revenue losses, but also the time is lost because of the accidents. These are all the reasons, not by just the humans, but investors also, to understand the performance and the delay in getting the things to the market. What are we envisioning from there? We have seen people, and we have seen the investors, we have seen the business. What are we envisioning for the next generation? We are envisioning to erase the boundaries of digital system from a biological system, which means all humans connected with the machines by means of some kind of a mechanism, not by means of one particular rule and regulation, for all the possible things. And physical systems are equipped with artificial intelligence. For example, a simple comfort from the point of the cars is, nowadays cars open the back doors by means of some plug or some kind of a button. But whereas off late you getting cars, they open their doors with the sign or with a visual signals. So as something like open it, you wave to a system, it automatically opens up, something like that. So kind of a connected sense with the machines to a biological system. We are not changing what we do. We are not changing how the door opens, but we are not changing the mechanism of opening the door, but we are changing how the door gets open with the means of connected sense. It's not about the growth of the business, but it is about the value that we give it to the customer within the limited sales that we have. It's again not about the number of mass quantity that we are doing it, but we are doing with the quality of the goods that we are delivering it to the market. Because we already reached a little level where there is a lot of quantity available, but you need to produce the same thing with not with the quantity, but again with the quality. That's the reason most of the times I'm taking an example of a car, because you see a lot of car manufacturers are recalling the manufactured cars to the system, recalling them back to their units because of a failure in their software or a flaw in their design or something like that. So it's not about how fast we can reach to that market or how much quantity we can reach it, but it's about how quality we reach to the market. Above of all, it's an opportunity that we have to give it to every individual, not to a limited set of people. That's what is the main goal for the 4.0. Here the point is we are not replacing the human power with robotic power, but we are collaborating human power with the robotic power. That's all about the fourth generation. In a nutshell, what we are trying to see is we are trying to see the ethics and identity for each individuals. We are seeing the governance with the reference of agile technology, which means that we will be flexible to understand what is happening and we adapt things as we progress. And we have wanted to erase the inequality between the human and machine, and we try to establish equality among all human. And it's about the disruption on the way that we do the business, not in a traditional standard way of doing things. It's about disruption of the jobs, and not just jobs, but equipping each individual with the skills that is needed for the next level of industry. But again, we have to have security, and there are a lot of conflict of interest from different people. That's the reason you see on nowadays a lot of hackers coming into the system with reference to their ethical hacking and non-ethical hacking. But these hackers only come into picture when they have a conflict of interest with the business. But again, we have to identify how can we innovatively understand each individual and go with productivity with hands-on. Finally, we are looking at the infusing technologies, and that is nothing but the entire fourth industry revolution is all about. Are there anything beyond this? Yes, there are. I'll come into that picture once we get to the 5.0. There is one particular timeline I wanted to show you how 4.0 has evolved. It started from 2006 with government of the Germany identifying the terminology as high-tech strategy and it is happened at a Hanover Messe Industrial Conference. And then they started to formalize standard definitions for 4.0, Dr. Kagerman and Dr. Olf, and they all have formed together to prepare some kind of notes and white papers, and they presented their framework during 2011 conference. So it took about 5 years for them to understand how can we standardize the terminology and how can we give them a kind of a standardized meaning and definition for Industry 4.0. But a leap come into picture when accepted by majority of the industry during 2012 for the report that they have prepared it. So 2012 October is officially declared of the availability of the Industry 4.0 with its definitions and standards. Followed by 2013, the same Hanover fair, officially they have formed a industrial committee as platform to Industry 4.0, and they started making standards for 4.0 with reference to companies, with reference to associations, and then they slowly people started joining this particular government authority and contributing their knowledge with reference to the standards. By 2015, the platform for Industry 4.0 stabilized and started expanding their protocols to various others, but everything mostly happened from German. But later, after across the globe, people started taking those standards and implementing their manufacturing their devices with reference to that particular standards. A big milestone happened in April 19 to say that this is the only way that Industry 4.0 operates. And they also laid down a roadmap for 2030 for Industry 4.0. But of course, we are way ahead of those things, but I have to mention that they laid down that roadmap. Now, we have seen what is the need of 4.0. Now we'll see what are the needs for anyone to get into a Industry 4.0, or what it demands, Industry 4.0, what it demands, so that we can be equipped with that, so that we are in that system, we can be comfortably in that system. Before we get into that, we have to understand the business first. What do we learn from each business history? We learn from the business industry how the products are produced and how they are procured from the market where they have actually produced to the market where they are made available for sales. And after that, how are they presented for sale? And after that, who is actually for which target customer that market is being built, and how are we selling them to them? And once we sell them, how the sales is happening, how the purchase is happening, by means of cash, or earlier it's all used to be by means of cash. Now mostly it's happening digital, but also little cash. But beyond this, who have purchased that, how are they using it? Most of people buy things when they are not in need of it, just because it is available. But keeping that ready for the next availability is sometimes meaningful for us. It all depends on individual's perspective. So before we get into that concept of individual perspective, but point here is, what is the usage of these purchased goods by the people who have actually purchased it? We also have to understand that. Now, the entire concept behind this is deriving sales and making the business to understand the underlying patterns. So we need to understand how are we deriving a sale, and with that sale number of times, how are we, what we call it as, what are the patterns that we are actually understanding, identifying with the number of sales that are happening. And with that patterns, you have to invite new trends so that people can make a lot of other few more transactions. There is one particular video I wanted to play, but this video, due to the challenge of the audio, I'm not sure whether you can listen to it. But point here is, it's all about the Amazon Go. Amazon Go started in 2016. They wanted to make sure that customers who walk into the store, they don't really have to wait for the counter clerk or billing clerk to help them out for the sales. They can take that particular product, whatever they wanted, and they can walk out of the store without waiting for a queue to pay for that particular purchase, what they have done. To know more about it, I would recommend you go to amazon.com/go and understand that. It is a seamless connectivity for the customers to make sure that they buy things without waiting for anyone to bill for them. So it started in 2017. Currently, they were in 24 stores in 4 locations. And it is 800 billion grocery industry, and especially Amazon. Why? The question is, why less progress? In 5 years, they only built 24 stores, only in America, only in 4 locations. Why it is causing them not to produce en masse? Why can't they do it quickly? When they have seen success in one area, why can't they replicate that success of one area to a multiple areas repeatedly? Especially Amazon, knowing for a customer service, why can't they do it? The point that we have to understand is, it is a fear by the USA government that they're losing the jobs at the counter by the counter clerk. And most people think that any shop, we don't really need any person to stay there, put the products there, and the people can buy it, simply go. That's something that making people fear that in the future they don't really need anyone to help them out from the point of shopping. And a part of that, there's a lot of infrastructure is required. Cameras, computers, multidimensional visions, because there'll be a lot of computers on top of you looking at what you are actually picking up and what you are actually buying it. And placement of this product is also much important, because aligning with the product entities, if you place one product from a different shelf to a different shelf, the cost of the product itself will be lost. So you will not see the actual cost of the product if it is not placed in the right place.
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
Please, if you can unmute your
face again, chala.
Catherine, can you mute yourself?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
All
please.
right. Is my screen totally visible, or this floating is appearing for you?
Yes. Please continue, sir.
I mean, is my entire screen visible to you, or there's a floating bar appearing that is appearing for you?
No, absolutely visible.
Okay, so the titles are visible for you, right?
Exactly, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, because I'm a presenter, I couldn't see the titles. That's fine with me. All right. So where are we? We are at the junction to understand why the less progress by such kind of a product innovation. We understand that the challenge of fear of losing the jobs and infrastructure cost and placing the right product at the right place, because the displacement by the bad customers, we call it as bad customers come from take product from one location and they drop it in another location. They don't put the replace it back where they have taken. So the product which is at $10, when you replace it to a $1, so and other person, other customer coming in, he would take that particular $1 product and he expects that this product would be a $1. So this kind of a people who misplace that particular thing, someone have to give attention and then instantaneously they have to replace that particular stuff. So this kind of a bad customers also causing the maintenance of the stores. That is one of the reasons that it's taking the progress of any store is taking longer time. And finally, the mindset of the advanced technology by the people is also important, because when you want to purchase something in that particular store, you should be equipped with a kind of a digital currency or digital means of a card. Amazon now says that they have to have a virtual card and loaded with little amount or amount of money where, or it's a kind of a credit that they can avail. So using such kind of a virtual card is important to walk into that particular store. So every person who wants to have experience with such kind of a go store, they have to have a virtual card. So having a virtual card is also a mindset most people don't really think they should have. So that is one other reason that passes the progress of this kind of a business. So what are we envisioning here when we knowing all these things? It's not about having intelligence, but it is about the connected devices that are playing the major role of the business. So on a fun note, I wanted to share with you that this 3 Square company have infused all their employees, or they not just all, sorry, 50 of their employees, they said voluntarily come forward to infuse themselves with an RFID between their thumb and index. So they have imbibed an RFID here, which can be imbibed within a minute, within just a minute, and then it can be without any pain, they can survive with that. So I'm not saying anything fancy, but it is reality. In 2017, this company called for 50 employees, and all the 50 employees who have voluntarily came forward got them infused with this RFIDs. And then RFID, they use it for making purchases whenever they want to do it. And they're using it to open the doors, and they're using it to unlock their computers. So as soon as they come to the computer, and then automatically computer gets unlocked. There are side effects of this kind of a infusion of RFID into a human, but point here is humans are now getting infused with devices. And you know, these are the wide variety of the social media that we have, or organizations that we have. What are they doing it, and why they are in this particular industry, or what is their main purpose of them? Is, I would say, the first and foremost is to produce lots of data. Twitter produces data in trillions, Google trillions, Facebook, I don't have to tell you all. YouTube, I have not mentioned it there, but YouTube does streaming. Now we are also on YouTube live streaming. So streaming data is one thing that is the oil for the business now and future. So first and foremost is lots of data by these companies is getting generated, and that generated data is processed through algorithms, artificial intelligence algorithms, deep learning algorithms, for a machine learning mechanism or machine learning models, so that the next generation would understand how the machines which are imbibed with such kind of a knowledge. We call it as industrial IoT, or Internet of Things. Industries which connect with this kind of a knowledge coming from this data, they operate depending on the data patterns that are being informing us. For example, as I mentioned in the previous Amazon Go, during the lunchtime, there will be a lot of people walking on the store to grab things that they can eat it. Can they make their experience in less than 30 seconds? Which means, can they walk into the store, take whatever they needed, and then walk out of the store in 30 seconds? Can they do it? That's a bigger thing. This happens only when you identify the pattern of an individual from the lots of data that we have it, and then make sure that a person, most people are coming in to eat chicken during the lunchtime. So make sure that chicken sandwiches are available right in front of the walking door, so that they don't have to walk through and find out those whatever they wanted. Or a veg sandwich is mostly sold. They don't really want them to walk to the aisle of it. Can you make sure that the veg sandwich is available right next to the door, so that they just walk, take, and then go? Can this be in less than 30 seconds? That kind of a industrial innovation that we are looking at. So when you see the lots of data, as I mentioned earlier, there's a structured data and unstructured data, and you have to know how do you manage that particular structured and unstructured data. And once you manage this data, you need to build a programming model such that they understand this data, and they prepare with artificial intelligence, and that can be given to the machine, and machine learns through it, and you come up with a kind of a learning based deep neural network through the connected sense. And are we with the IoT? Yes, we are with industrial IoT. And I just wanted to share one graph where number of devices available by 2020 is 50 billion devices are connected to the network. The power is such, connectivity is available with us, but how can you use that power is one's challenge. Now, are we getting into the new era of sense of connectedness or sense of nonsense? We call it connected nonsense. When you go on to the public, see where the people are waiting. Observe that the waiting sense of the people should be looking at the understanding things around of what is happening, but rather the waiting sense is yielding them towards connecting to a device, which means you mostly see phones in the hands of the people where there's a lot of waiting sense. So observe yourself that phones are becoming nonsense for people, but yet they are not realizing that it is becoming nonsense. Anyway, that's my individual perspective. Everybody would have their own perspective. We don't have to get into the perspective, but we'll certainly look into the concept of perspective a little later. How do we implement that kind of a stuff of connected sense, not the nonsense? All you have to do is you have to build nodes which can connect to each other from the endpoints like sensors, cameras, and other stuff. And then what we do with that is, with these sensors and cameras, they connect to a cloud data center, and they gather data and they store data and they process data on the store, on the cloud, on a remote data center. And thus these connected devices send data and receive instructions to and fro by the near node, usually installed on premises. I'm not saying anything new, but this is nothing but the phone tower mechanism, what we are actually doing it. Telephones, how they switch when you're traveling, how they automatically switch from one tower to other tower. So something like this, these connected devices should be in a position to have communication, not only to a single sense of device, but you have to have a multiple devices. Wi-Fi is all about Wi-Fi. If you have multiple Wi-Fi's connected, how can you switch Wi-Fi to one Wi-Fi without causing any problem to the user, seamlessly? So that kind of an adoption of cross-industry standards frameworks needs to mature, and that would only help us to go to the next level. So this is what I was trying to tell you is, we have to have an open Wi-Fi connectivity so that the real-time collaboration should be is seemingly possible to get on that kind of a fourth generation devices. In the interest of time, I'm going to show you how it works on a graphical way, So all you have to do is you have to have end users, they're connected to the app system, and we have to have an application base where the data, what is pumped by these end user sets, are transformed to a meaningful data sets. And these data sets have to be analyzed with reference to the time series, and you have to imbibe some kind of a learning mechanism using the neural networks, and you have to create a feature engine so that this data scientist understands this particular things, and he creates a application base with this through means of some kind of a visual metrics or visual representation of graphics that would help the people on the business who are trying to create the predictions of what would happen with the data. And this would only happen through a broadcasting to various people who are authorizing the time series, varying time series, and writing the algorithms for this deep learning. And they're not only algorithm, but they have to schedule it to fine tune themselves with the data that is coming in. So once this schedule it, that scheduler has to execute it automatically so that it refines itself to reduce the delta error that is coming from the deep learning models, and then so that it can give the prediction results of reduced data error to the leaderboard, and all the investors could see what is happening in the business. So from the point of this particular stuff, what I wanted to tell you is, are we getting into the industry 5.0 where there's a lot of artificial intelligence with reference to industrial Internet of Things? I would say yes. There's a one particular fun scene I wanted to play for you, where this is from the PK movie, but in the interest of audio, I'm sure I cannot do it. But the point here is, just go and see this particular video on the YouTube. This is a conversation between Anushka and I forgot his name. Is Amir Khan. It's a very fun comedy. But the point here is, it says that language has a lot of characteristics that one has to understand, and that characteristics that he explains there in this particular video. But I'll skip this video and then I'll proceed further. The point here I wanted to tell you is dimension of any given data. When you see one particular graph like this is one dimensional data. But the same data graph, if you put it into a 2-dimension, it might appear to you like this. But the data remains the same, but we are presenting in 2-dimensional data. But when the same data produced or presented in a 3-dimensional data, you might see something like this or something like this. So what is the main difference between these particular graphs? When you see the data remain the same, but their presentation varied from by using the multiple data dimensions, by adding values to that particular dimension to each data point, you see various ways of you interpret the various ways of the same data. So perception driven decision making on a design is the next level of the industry, which we call it as 5.0. So 5.0 is all about what? It's all about the perception of looking at the things from an individual perspective, not from the collective perspective. So it is more about the customization of an individual rather being the generalization of an individual. Mean to say, I might have a car which is generic for every individual, or I can have customized for my own self. That's the main difference between these kind of stuff. Now, I'm sure you understood. It's all about the perception. It's all about the cognition. It's all about cyber physical cognition systems. Fundamental thing is to understand it's all about the customer needs. So there is one particular story I wanted to tell you for all the business people. If anyone is there on this, you need to understand how you can make revenue generation without having a revenue leakage. That would only happen through a pattern recognition of what is the business happening with you, and what is the value that you're giving to the customers. And with these between, you should be in a position to have a predictive maintenance of how can you generate your revenue without changing much of your services. So it's all about generating new leads between your pattern generation, pattern recognition, and value generation. If you could understand that particular stuff, if you could transform that particular new leads or converting those new leads to a new business trends, that will give you the awareness of what is happening by the set of customers or an individual customer. And if you understand the customer perception, then you're in a new business. That's what is about the implementing phase of perception-based decision making. So it's all about how do we do in the industry is first identify the data that you have, mine it, identify the pattern, prepare a benchmark for it, and have the data inferences for that particular benchmark and align your business to that particular benchmarks, and then take actionable intelligence from there, put them into analytics modes, and create awareness within yourself, within your customers, so that they change, you go to the next level. So it's all about train and retrain and creating a future so that you don't have to wait for the next future. Are we there yet? I'm not sure, but we are far better than yesterday. So with that, I just wanted to say, what are the key takeaways from our discussion is, it's all about the intelligent machines, changing the novel ideas to a nest, what we call it as kind of a small incubating businesses. And this incubating businesses, when become revenue generation models, they give revenue, and this revenue again makes you invest on your machines. That's all about intelligent machines. And Internet of Things, it's not about just internet, but it is about interconnect. Are we independent or interdependent? We are getting into interdependent. And industrial IoT, we are trying to say, rather confront to yourself, you are trying to say, communicate with peers, communicate with all the possible machines. And finally, you need to analyze and baseline what's happening. These are things are the final key takeaways from this particular system. But my point here to tell you is, prepare the product with artificial intelligence. Can you do it? It's all about building a productive machines and journey to newer horizons. I'm on that journey. Are you with me, or anyone with me? Excuse me. I know very less about these things, but I'm trying to get to know the answers for all things I'm learning. Do you have any questions to me? If at all I can give you my thoughts in that question direction, maybe I would give. Otherwise, I've learned for you. Thank you for this opportunity. Any questions? I'm open now for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. DSK Chakravarthy sir, for this nice session. I would like to request all the participants, if you can just put your questions in the comment box or in the chat box, so that I can read it for the speaker. And if you are watching it somehow by delay, you can just post it on YouTube video in chat box. We'll try to answer that question with the help of the speaker after a while as well. So Catherine, you were asking something. If you have any question, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so I guess there isn't any question, and on the YouTube live, it will take some time to reflect the question. So I'd like to say that if someone is watching it after a while, you can just post your question in the chat box or in the description box of that particular session. We will try to provide the details of the speaker, like email ID, LinkedIn address. So if you have any further questions, you can just try to connect him on LinkedIn, Twitter, or via email. So with the permission of today's speaker, I would like to conclude the session here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, all the participants who were live here, and thank you so much, Mr. DSK Chakravarthy sir. It was a fantastic session, and I must say, most of the audience will be helpful. Thank you so much, and yeah, I would like to end the session here. Thank you so much.
Happy day ahead.